In this video, we're going to create a search form in Google Apps Script that allows us to pull back multiple records in a search and then pick and choose which of those records we want to make updates to, click an update button, and then that will automatically update those selected records back on our source data. So what you see here is a preview of what we're going to create today on this first tab. I have just a basic sort of search form results area. On the second tab, I have our source data, our employee records. So if I want to search on any of those fields, I can select it from this drop-down menu. So if I wanted to search on a location of branch number 5, I can input the search value based on the field, click search. It pulls back multiple records for all the employees at branch number 5. If I just want to pick and choose to update certain records, maybe these two employees move to a new branch that just opened up, branch number 6. What we should see for these highlighted records once I click update is it change in this location field from branch number 5 to branch number 6. So I'll click update, go back, you can see just those two records now reflect branch number 6. All the other records at branch 5 are still branch number 5 because we didn't update them. So the first thing we want to do is add our drop-down menu of fields to search on. So I'm going to click in this cell here, go up to data, then data validation, list from a range is what we want here. So I'm going to click in this box to the right, click in this box, and select our field values range. Click OK and save, and now we have our list of fields. So now we want to begin writing our code. So I'm going to go to extensions and then app script. I'm going to click here and up here and change untitled to project name of form. Our first function is going to be the search function, and to save time, I'm just going to paste in code I've already written and quickly run through it. So we have several variables here. So the first one is called SS for spreadsheet. That is equal to the spreadsheet application, and then get the active spreadsheet we're in now. We then have two variables for each of our sheets. First one is called sheet records, and those are both equal to our spreadsheet variable, and then get sheet by name and get the respective sheets. So then we have a variable called records that is equal to our record sheet, and then get data range and get values. So what that does on our record sheet is it gets all of the values in this range here all the way down to the last row and column that contains values, stores them in a 2D array, which is an array of values of rows and columns. We then have a variable called search field that is equal to our form sheet get range A2 get value, so that stores whatever is selected in this drop down menu here for the field to search on in this variable here. We then have a variable called search value, which is also on the form sheet in cell A5. So whatever value is input here that we want to search on, a branch number for location, stored in this variable here. We then have a variable called search column. So that is equal to our records 2D array. So that's an array of rows and columns. And then we have a set of brackets here after that and a value of 0. So what that is in a 2D array when you just have one set of brackets is look at the outer elements of that array. The outer elements are the collection of rows. The inner part of that 2D array is the collection of columns, but we're just looking at the rows right now. So we want to look at that first row because in an array in scripts, the count begins at 0. So we want to look at that first row in our records array, which is our row of headers. we want to get the last index of where the search field is found. So that's what that index of does. It finds the position of a value in an array, and it's an array of just a row of headers. So this returns the number position of where our search field variable is found in our row of headers to get the column that we want to search on. So then we have a variable called results, which is equal to our records 2D array again, and this time we're applying the filter method to that two-dimensional array. And that allows you to pass a function to that array. So you have the syntax for a function with the keyword function, parentheses, and then a set of curly brackets like you're used to seeing. So this time we have a variable parameter called e, which, think of this as, again, the outer collection of rows. So this represents the row, each row in that records array. And then in our brackets, we have the keyword return. So we want to return an output or a filter anytime our search value variable is equal to any row and then a set of brackets, because we want to get to the column, and the column we want to get to is our search column variable. So what we're saying is we want to filter and return any record in our search column, any row, I should say, in our search column where the value in that row in our records 2D array is equal to our search value variable. So that stores the results of this filter in this results variable. And then down here I have a simple if statement because I wanted to create an error message if a search value wasn't found. So that is our condition here. We have if our results array length is equal to 0, because the length of an array, the count actually begins at 1 when you're talking about the length of an array, which the length would be the collection of rows because that's the outer part of that array. So what it's basically saying is if no match is found, no rows are produced, then we want to display an error message value not found. So that would be equal to the spreadsheet application get UI, which stands for user interface, and then alert message value not found. Otherwise, we want in our search form sheet to get the range beginning in row 2, column 3, which that is going to be right here is our beginning point. The number of rows we want to go down is going to be equal to the length of our results, which the length of the results array is the outer collection of rows, the number of rows we have, and then the number of columns we want to be equal to the first element, which is the first row in our results array. The length of that, the length of the first row would be the number of columns it has. So that gets us our column length, and then we want to set the values of this range on our search form to our results variable array. So I'm going to hit save. We already have a search value and search field there, so we'll click run. We'll have to authorize this, I believe, because it's the first time we're running this, so it'll take just a second to do this because I'm filming the desktop. So we'll have to click review permissions, click on the Google account we're using, go to advanced, go to the project name form down here, click allow. So this will run, and you can see it produces all of the records based on our search value of branch 5. So now I can clear this out. We can search on something different like last name. Let me maybe Smith. Run this again, and there it is, a search on a different field. If we put something that doesn't match the field, like branch number, because we're still looking at the last name column, we should see our error message that we created pop up, value not found. So now we want to create the script to clear out the data on our form so that we can perform the next search. So we're going to go back to our editor. Below this search script, I'm going to paste in a new function called clear. We have our same variables as last time with the spreadsheet and then the form sheet. We don't need one for the record sheet because we don't want to clear anything. We just want to clear the form sheet. And then we have a variable called column C last row, because we need to find the last row in just this range of cells here. So what we're going to do is, with our form sheet, get range C1, get the next data cell, and what that allows you to do is specify a direction you want to go from this beginning point of C1. So in this get next data cell, we have spreadsheet application, direction, and then down. And then from there, we want to get the last row. Now that will return a row of 3 right now. So then on our form sheet, we want to get range, row 2, column 3, which is our beginning point. And for the number of rows we want to go down, we want to insert our column C last row variable, which is currently a value of 3. We don't want to go down 3 rows because we're here, and if we did that, we'd go down here. It wouldn't hurt anything, but we want to go down the exact number of rows we need to clear out. So we subtract 1 from that. And then the number of columns we want to go across is 5 because we have 5 columns. And then we want to apply the clear method. We also want to clear out cell A2 and A5 just for our next search. So we have 2 functions now, so we need to make sure we select the one we want to run. So I'm going to hit save, and when I run this, we should see all this data get cleared out here. And there it is. So now we want to begin writing the code for our update script so that we can pick and choose which records we want to update in our results. So I'm going to go back to our editor. We're going to add a new function called update. Going to have the same variables as last time. We have our spreadsheet and then our 2 sheet variables. We have a variable called last row, which is the same as with the clear script that gets the last row in column C where our search results are. We have a variable called new data, which also on the form gets the range of our search results and gets the values, stores those values in this array variable. So to make a better visual for this, I want to search again and display some search results. So we'll search by department, customer service, run this, and so now we have every record that's in the customer service department. If we wanted to update these last 2 to admin, this would be our array of records in this new data variable. So then we have a set of 2 for loops. We have an outer loop that loops through our new data 2D array, and then an inner loop that loops through this variable here called old data, which is the data set of our employee records on the record sheet. So if you don't know, what a for loop does is it repeats a series of steps based on a beginning and ending point that you specify. So it begins with the keyword for. We have a beginning point with a counter variable we'll call I, and our beginning point, our counter starts at 0 because we're dealing with arrays and the count begins at 0. Then we specify how long we want this counter to count through. We want it to count so long as the counter is less than the length of our new data array variable, which is the length in rows. Final little input here is how much we want to increment in. I++ means we want to increment in counts of 1. So after that, we have a variable called old data, which is equal to our record sheet, get that entire data range, get all the values. So that gets all the values in a 2D array called old data of the entire data set of employee records. Then we have our inner loop. So we have same syntax for keyword. Then we have a variable called j. We also want to begin at a count of 0 because we're looping through rows in the outer array of old data. We want to start at the first row. We want this counter to go up until it is less than the length of our old data array, which is the length in rows. We want to increment in values of 1. And then with this inner array, we have our, I should say, inner loop. We want a test to see if a specific row and column, because we have two sets of brackets here. So we have our new data array and then our counter I, whatever row we're on, because this represents rows, and then column 0, which is the first column, because the key that links these two data sets together is the employee ID number. Each employee has a unique ID number. So we want to check and see if whatever row we're on, the first column containing the employee ID is equal to the old data, same column, and whatever row we're on in that data set. We want to see if they are equal. If they are, we want to create a new variable called new data2, and that is simply equal to the row, whatever row we're presently on in our loop, and we want to add a set of surrounding brackets because this row by itself is a 1D array. It's just a array of one row. We need to make it a 2D array of one row and 5 columns. So that's why we have the outer set of brackets, because it has to be a 2D array in order to do this last line of code, which is on our record sheet, get the range and update that particular row where the match is found. So we have on this last line of code our record sheet get range. Our beginning point is going to be j because it's whatever row we're currently on in our records loop. We want to add 1 to that because the count begins at 0. We don't have a row 0, so to get to the right row we need to add 1 to that. We want to begin in column 1. We want to go down just one row because we're updating one row at a time during this loop. And then the number of columns we want to go across is going to be equal to our new data2 variable, the first row of it, which is why we had a set of curly brackets with a 0, and then the length of that row, which is the number of columns in that row. And we want to set the values equal to our new data2 variable. So I've already made updates here. So on these two records here, what we should see when we run this is customer service get changed to admin for just those two records. So we'll change this to run the update. I'm going to click run. You can see those two values change to admin. So the final thing we want to do is just add buttons that we can press to run our scripts. So I'm going to go up to insert, drawing. Just going to add a rectangle. First one will be called search. Save and close. We'll just move this over here. Do the same for our other two buttons. This will be called clear. One more for our update. So we'll just click on them on this little drop down menu here, assign script, and just fill in the script name. So now I can clear out the data here. We can perform a new search. And there it is. Well, that is all for now. Thanks for watching. Please remember to hit that subscribe button.